You're listening to the 5-Minute Friday podcast episode of The Aligned Self. This is your host, Daniel Danovi. Okay, 5-Minute Friday, a short and concise podcast episode of The Aligned Self, designed to leave you with a question, an idea, a strategy, a tip, a hack, in order to give you greater access to your conscious awareness, evolving your conscious awareness, or give you greater mastery over your mind. Hello, friend, and welcome into this 5-Minute Friday. Today, I want to talk about why a lot of people have difficulty, or one of the main reasons, let's say that, one of the main reasons why people have difficulty trusting their intuition. Beginning at a very young age, we're taught that we need good reasons to do things. For instance, maybe you came across this huge blank canvas and you decided to create a masterpiece with your Crayolas. You break out the crayons and you're drawing and it looks marvelous. You're looking at how everything's coming together and it's just perfection. And then your mother shows up. Why are you drawing on the wall? And of course, you give the classic answer, I don't know. Well, that's not good enough reason. Why are you drawing on the wall? Because why? And you realize in that moment there has to be a right answer. There has to be a good reason somewhere in there on why you're drawing on the wall. And if you can only come up with it, then everything would be okay. Implicitly and tacitly, you understand that just wanting to do it, just having the feeling like it'd be a good idea, isn't good enough. So later in life, you have the urging, the impulse to be an artist, to draw, to paint. You have some creative urge in you that needs to get out, but you don't have a good reason to become an artist. It doesn't necessarily pay the bills. It's not exactly the most practical thing to do. And so because you don't have a good reason, you park the idea. That was my story. I can remember distinctly when I was a teenager of wanting to drive to another city, had the strong urge to drive to another city. I grew up in a small town, so just about any city was bigger than where we were. And so I told my dad, I'm going to go for a drive. He says, where are you going? I said, I'm going into Flint. And he said, why? And I responded, well, I feel like it. I have the urge to go into Flint. And he said, no. We do not drive 16 miles for no good reason. And when we go to Flint, we're not just going because. We're going to have several good reasons, not just one reason. We're going to have several things we're going to accomplish once they're there, because we're not going to be doing this over and over and over again. We need a good reason to drive 16 miles. Well, I did not have a good reason. Just because I had the urge to do it, just because I had the impulse to do it, was not good enough. And so the major reason why a lot of people have difficulty trusting their intuition is because it just doesn't make good sense. You see, intuition is nonlinear. You can't look at a set of actions step by step. Intuition does not unfold that way. When you surrender to the universe, when you surrender to intuition, you may decide to quit your job, travel across the country in a camper van, or change positions in a company that doesn't upgrade your pay. But in hindsight, gives you a lot more experience than you could have gotten in the position that you were in. But on the front end of that decision, you didn't know it was going to give you a lot more experience. You just knew you needed a change. And so it goes. Intuition may give you the urging, the compulsion to go for a walk when you have many, many things to do, things that you should do, a whole long to-do list of things to do. But you want to take a walk. I don't know why, I just need to take a walk. Or you may be compelled to sit and meditate, call in sick to work and just watch movies. Not that you were sick, you were feeling pretty good, but you just decided to take a personal day. You felt like you needed to stay home. Of course, when you call into work, they typically ask, what's wrong? Why can't you come into work? As if you need a good reason. And this is where we get really good at coming up with reasons we think other people want to hear. Somebody wants to take you on a date, but you don't really feel like going on a date with them. And you make up some excuse. You don't say, I don't want to go on a date with you. You make some other kind of excuse. I have a boyfriend, or I have a girlfriend. I have other commitments. I have to do a work project. We make up all these reasons, these rational reasons, when ultimately we just don't feel like it. You see, when you live your life according to intuitive urges, intuitive guidance, oftentimes the decisions you make just don't make good sense. They don't make good sense from a logistical point of view, or a point of view from someone that has a rational mind or lives in the idea that there is an appropriate way to do things. No. Oftentimes our intuition will say, stop here, rest for 5 minutes, then go. But don't go forward straight. Go to the right 1,000 paces. Then circle back around because there's a pretty horse over on the other side and you want to check it out. If you're just starting out trusting your intuition, just starting out listening to your intuition, it's not going to make real good sense. You may know things without knowing how you know them. You may not know where it came from or why you're proceeding the way you are. You just have an urging that is the appropriate thing to do. And so this is a muscle that you want to exercise over time when you get the urging. And this is especially conducive to those activities, those things that have low risk of consequence to you, a low risk of negative consequence, let's say that. And in moving ahead, you want to do so with a sense of play, a sense of discovery, a sense of adventure. With the idea, I wonder where this is going to lead me. I wonder where I'm going to end up. You follow the urging, you play it out, and see what happens. In hindsight, you can look back and make an assessment. How did that play out for you? If it was favorable, if it was positive, you know to follow that intuitive urging again in the future. But on the front end, you're probably not going to know for sure. It just feels like, seems like a good thing to do. So, knowing that intuition is nonlinear and it may not make sense up front gives you a certain amount of latitude to move forward following your urgings, because you suspend the idea that it has to make sense. So, follow your bliss. Live your life from inner signals. Be inner directed. This is your host, Daniel Denovi, urging you to engage your life as an epic adventure.